Thank you, Dora. Good evening. I'm thrilled that this entire celebration and this event is happening here, and I understand in Cambridge. And I want to offer two reasons why I'm thrilled about this. The first is this. The reality is that as much as we celebrate Aden, Teman, Halabi, the Egyptians, all different places we come. As a matter of fact, the reality is there's not a place on this planet that our people have not been. That's the truth. But we're all expats. And we must not forget that. We're all expats. We are Am Yisrael. And our home is Eretz Yisrael. And that's where we came from. Close to 2,000 years ago. And 2,000 years ago, Kadosh Baruch Hu, in his Deen, Baruch Dayan HaEmet, sent us all away. And we spread throughout the world. Close to 2,000 years. Our people have lived in every corner of this globe. There is not a language that we have not spoken. There is not a country practically in which we have not lived. And here we are, close to 2,000 years later, in JW3, celebrating the part of our people that lived in Aden. And it is worth celebrating, but we must have it in context. Recognize the entire history. And so why is it important to celebrate Aden? Well, we could say, I could make a case to say, listen, okay, so we're in Aden, we're in Halab, we're in Kahir, we're all over the place, now leave it. Go back to Eretz Yisrael, let the Adani be Adani and Aden, and we go back to Eretz Yisrael. But that's not the case that I'm making. I am saying, yes, we must remember and celebrate and keep and recognize all of the diverse minhagim and the diverse experiences that our people had. Why? Because that is the point of Am Yisrael. It's one of the important points of Am Yisrael. And to explain to you why, I'm going to tell you a short story. So like I said, I'm Halabi, yeah? I imagine that more than one person in this audience knows the name Muhammad Abdul Wahab. You know this name? So you know Abdul Wahab. Abdul Wahab was Egyptian, Goy, but he was an Egyptian, and he was one of the most prolific songwriters in the Arab world. He had a career that spanned over 50 years. And in the Halabi community, other communities as well, but in the Halabi community, we took his songs and we put it in the tefillah. So when we sing, he has a song, Ala baladil mahbuadini, you know the song? Okay. This song, we sing, for example, we sing it in our tefillah. We do that through all the tefillah. So what's the story? The story is Abdul Wahab, years ago, maybe 40 years ago, 35 now, 40 years ago, he came to Los Angeles. I grew up in Los Angeles. My grandfather is still in Los Angeles. So he loved Abdul Wahab. And I grew up listening to Abdul Wahab from my grandfather. So he came to speak Abdul Wahab in UCLA, the university. So my grandfather went to go see him speak. And after he spoke, he had a special audience with him. So my grandfather's thinking, what should I tell him? Abdul Wahab, when I see him, he's a huge fan. This is what he told him. He said, I want to tell you, your music will live in our prayers for all time. And Abdul Wahab said, really? Where are my royalties? Now why I tell you that story? Because what my grandfather said is true. And the reality is, if you go to Cairo today, maybe you'll hear some Abdul Wahab, but you know what they call it? Classical music. They barely listen to it. They don't sing it very much anymore. We sing it every Shabbat. That is Am Yisrael. What we pulled and took from every country, what we learned from every people with whom we lived, lives in us. Why? Because Am Yisrael Chai, that's why. Because after 2,000 years of exile, 2,000 years of exile, all of that time, as it says in the Haggadah, Divrei HaChaim, B'chol dor v'dor, Omdim aleinu lechalotenu. In every generation, they didn't just let us go and welcome us and meet salam and bruchim habayim and embrace us. No, they tried to kill us at every turn. With our hands tied behind our backs, burned by the fires of the world. And after 2,000 years, here we are. And we must never take that for granted. That is who we are. We are, for all intents and purposes, an indestructible people. Yes, casualty, great, terrible, horrible casualty has befallen us over the generations, but we are nonetheless an indestructible people. And when we celebrate our heritage, what we are celebrating is us living, absorbing, experiencing what the Nabi calls the Midbar Ha'amim, the desert of all of the nations, through which we went and learned, and grew, and absorbed. And this is the point, we are richer because of it. We are an amazing nation because of it. And what we are finding now amongst our people, especially in Eretz Israel, but it's happening everywhere, is that for a long time we lived in Aden, and all we knew was the other Adeni Jews. We lived in Halab, all we knew was the other Halabi Jews. The Halabi, they don't even talk to the Shami, the Damascus, they don't talk to them. Can't marry them, the kids can't play together. Now it's starting to be a little bit different, a little bit. Not to mention Sfaradim and Ashkenazim. But all of a sudden everybody's coming together again. All of us are coming together again. And we're finding it difficult to come together. And what we must do, inshallah, Kadosh Baruch Hu should help us, what we must do is find the harmony. Why harmony? Because what a harmony is, the beauty of a harmony is that we play different notes. But when we play them together, it sounds beautiful. And we've been playing our notes for a long time. We're not used to playing in the choir with everybody else, in the full orchestra, and singing in the choir with everybody else. That we must learn to do. It's not easy. And as we know now, it's getting quite difficult. But we must. Because that is what we're meant to do. And we must celebrate our notes that we bring to the great symphony of Am Yisrael. And one of the most important notes is Aden. And we have to celebrate it. That is the first reason. The second reason is shorter. And it is simply this. We don't just bring the unique richness of the Amim with whom we lived. We bring something that we've held as Am Yisrael, each one of us in our own way. And one of those things is how we approach Torah. How we live our Torah. Which is, make no mistake, the heart and soul of our people. It is that book that has held us together. And for a very long time, as it would be, there was one way that has had high volume for many generations, and that is predominantly the Ashkenazim. Hashem yishmerehem v'chayeihem achaynu Ashkenazim. They've given a tremendous amount to the world and to our people. But there is other way. And as Dror said, I started recently the Habura. I started the Habura because I wanted to raise the volume on our way. That's a little bit different, but just as substantial, and goes back all the way to our Rishonim and Geonim, Rabbeinu Sa'adia Gaon, Rabbeinu Hayye Gaon, Rabbeinu Amram Gaon, Moreno Harambam, our way. And it's okay to be proud of our way. And if we don't celebrate our way, and we don't teach it, the volume will be turned so low that we won't hear it anymore. And I don't want, I know Drora doesn't want, and I know you don't want that to happen. So in order for that not to happen, we not only need to sing it loud, we need to be proud. And if anything, it's hard to come after this performance. I have to say, I was a little bit nervous. But if there's any way to start, it's a beautiful way to start. We should be proud, like they were proud to dance. So we should be proud to be who we are and to celebrate. Not an exclusion of our brothers and sisters, but in harmony with them. And inshallah, Yiratzon, we should learn how to do it.